Today's lesson is Lesson 9, Sheep Farms. The Bible is full of imagery about sheep. Psalms 23 talks about God being a shepherd to his people. Jesus calls himself the Good Shepherd and refers to his people as sheep in John 10. The biblical passage that references sheep are not well understood in our modern world. With machinery, pens, and huge farms, most sheep farmers don't consider themselves shepherds anymore. In biblical times, and even still today in some places around the world, sheep are tended by a shepherd. This shepherd stays with the sheep at all times to make sure that they are safe and secure. The sheep become attached to the shepherd and follow them. Before fields and pens, sheep were raised on open grasslands. They often came into contact with other flocks. Unlike cattle, which must be sorted by brands or tags, sheep recognize their shepherd's voice and face. If different flocks mingled in a field, a shepherd only had to call their sheep and they would come. Sheep felt secure when they were with their shepherd, and they would follow them no matter where they called them. Today, larger flocks have created a need for herding sheep rather than calling them. Much of the beauty of the passages about sheep knowing their shepherd's voice in the Bible are lost to the modern reader. It is commonly believed that sheep are not the sharpest tool in the shed, in other words, not very intelligent. Like many animals that live in herds, if the majority of sheep are headed in one direction, the rest will follow. Whether it is a good direction or not is irrelevant to the sheep. They want nothing more than to be with the flock. Just because sheep tend to follow the crowd, however, doesn't mean they are not intelligent. Studies have shown that sheep have a remarkable memory. Due to consistent interaction with their shepherd, sheep learn to trust them. They even run to their shepherd when they sense danger. In some ways, it isn't easy to see why the Bible relates to sheep. It is easy to see why the Bible relates humans to sheep. We are so easily swayed by the opinions of others, and following the crowd often seems like the best, or perhaps easiest, course of action. When we spend more time with Jesus, our Good Shepherd, it becomes natural to go to him when we feel scared or uncertain about life. Raising sheep. Modern sheep can be raised on a ranch or a farm. Because sheep do not need as much food as cattle, smaller farms can turn a profit from sheep even with small amounts of land. In Australia, sheep ranches that cover thousands of acres are common in Canada and the United States. Small sheep farms are becoming more common because it is a relatively inexpensive farming industry to invest in. Sheep are hardy creatures, able to withstand both the cold winters of many parts of North America as well as the scorching heat of Australia. The unique fibers of wool have the ability to keep sheep cool in the summer and warm in the winter. Most domestic sheep today have been bred to produce thick coats of wool that do not shed. A sheep rancher or farmer must shear the sheep as part of the seasonal maintenance of the flock. In warmer climates, it is not uncommon for sheep farmers to shear their sheep twice a year, avoiding the potential issues that might arise from sheep that are overheated. In cooler climates, sheep are allowed to grow their wool long in the winter. They are shorn once a year in the springtime when the winter starts to warm up. Most farmers hire shearers who specialize in sheep shearing to care for their flock. There are traveling shearers who make their living doing this job by traveling all over the world. They plan their travels carefully to follow the normal times for shearing in the counties they head to. Experienced shearers are quick and efficient. They leave a short coat of wool on the sheep, both to help them stay cool and to protect them from sunburn. Sheep are naturally a grazing animal. They love to munch on lush grass, but also will snack on low bushes when they are available. Sheep pastures must be managed well, or the sheep will easily overgraze the land. This is because they have a tendency to eat grass right down to the dirt. Sheep that live in areas that have cold winters or extended dry seasons are sometimes fed hay in a barnyard when they do not have access to fresh grass. Sheep are relatively easy creatures to care for. They are generally content to stay in their pastures, do not frequently escape, and their size makes them much easier to physically manage than larger animals like cattle. A scared herd of cattle can cause considerable damage and even endanger the lives of the people herding them. Sheep, however, do not pose a risk of trampling people or other animals, both due to their size and their timid nature. These advantages, combined with many different revenues, streams of milk, meat, and wool, make sheep a worthwhile animal to consider farming. A day in the life of a sheep farmer. Meet Tina. She has always loved sheep from the time she was a little girl and met her first lamb, even though she had an allergic reaction to the animal she was smitten. She tried raising a lamb once as a child, and although she never did that again, she was bitten by the farming bug. It was no surprise that she married a farm boy whose dream was to farm full-time one day. As they worked to build their life and farm together, the love of sheep was rekindled in Tina, and she proposed starting a sheep farm. With a relatively low investment, enough land for sheep to graze, and a barn already on the property, it made sense, and they jumped in. Each morning, Tina got up at 6 o'clock to feed and check her sheep. She mixed grain and poured it in the troughs during the winter. In the summer, she heads out to the pasture to make sure the fences are secure, and the ewes every few hours, even through the night. While sheep are capable of lambing outside, she is thankful for a barn where she can move her animals when it is time to lamb. This way, if the temperatures are suddenly dropping, the animals are protected. It is also easier to catch and move ewes into pens once they have given birth if they are in an enclosed area. Having sheep inside also makes it easy to monitor them to make sure the ewes have not rejected the lambs. If a lamb is rejected, the farmer can intervene and save the lamb. Equipment. Horses and dogs are used on sheep farms, much like they are on cattle ranches. However, dogs have an even more important role on sheep ranches and farms than they do on cattle ranches. Collies and various sheep dogs are frequently used on sheep ranches to help herd sheep. These dogs are specially trained to move the sheep where the ranch hands tell them to go. Other dogs that are common in the sheep farming industry, livestock, are guard dogs or LGDs, such as Great Pyrenees or Australian Shepherd dogs. These large dogs bond with the sheep and provide protection to their flock from predators and other threats. They have even been known to come after a person they do not know if they think their sheep are in danger. LGDs often have similar color to sheep and will lay among their flock to protect them. Imagine the shock of a coyote that has decided that a calmly grazing group of sheep looks like an easy meal, only to have a massive dog appear from the middle of the flock to defend it. That coyote might think twice before attacking that flock again. Storage and processing. Sheep produce many different products that must be processed in different ways. The milk from a sheep farm is collected daily and kept in chilled tanks, much like cow's milk. It is then shipped and processed at plants that package the milk or produce cheese and other products. Milk must be processed quickly or it will spoil. Wool from shearing is bundled and sold to processing facilities that clean it and grade it before selling it to a place that makes yarn or textiles. Wool must be combined or carded, a process of brushing that prepares the wool fibers for spinning and eventually weaving. Wool can be dyed before it is spun into yarn to create beautiful colors. Meat that comes from mature sheep is called mutton, while the meat from young sheep is called lamb. Most sheep farmers or ranchers sell their live lambs and sheep to processing plants that slaughter, butcher, package, and market the meat for them. Unlike beef, there are many different opinions on how long to hang sheep meat before butchering and packaging. While many butchers prefer to hang mutton for a week or more, lambs are often processed after hanging for as little as 24 hours. Lamb and mutton are either sold fresh to stores or frozen for a long storage period. Hot button of debate. There is some controversy and debate about the ethics of slaughtering an animal before it is grown. Some people have a hard time with the idea of cute baby animals being used for meat. As a result, eating lamb meat is controversial in some areas. However, different cultures view this differently depending on what is common in that area. In some areas of the world where lamb is readily available, like Greece, this concern is less common. What do you think? Some small sheep farms are beginning to form partnerships with small butcher shops rather than selling their lambs at auction to large processing plants. These farmers are learning to market their meat as a specialty product to restaurants and foodies alike. Like many of the small-scale farming movements that are becoming popular today, this marketing strategy works because it appeals to people who want a stronger connection with their food and want to know where their food comes from. To the table. Once wool from the sheep is spun, it can be woven into textiles or sold as balls of yarn at craft stores. A lot of people love to crochet or knit as a pastime or hobby today. These skills were necessary in many years gone by, as they were the most common way to make things like scarves and mittens. Today, it is much cheaper to purchase mass-produced mittens, scarves, hats, and socks. However, some people love to keep tradition alive and make their own clothing, not to mention blankets that are other useful items. Sheep milk that has been processed and packaged or made into cheese is marketed in stores and in some places of farmer markets. Sheep milk is known to be easier on the human digestive system and has a mild flavor. The cheese made from sheep's milk is creamy and mild. You will need to look in the deli section of your grocery store to find this unique cheese. When a sheep is butchered after it has reached the age of 1, it is considered mature. Mutton is a meat that has a distinct strong flavor and a tough oily texture. Most Western countries have a larger market for lamb than mutton, while many nations in the Middle East and farther east prefer the stronger flavor of mutton over lamb. These characteristics make mutton a prime candidate for dishes that have strongly flavored sauces and are cooked at low temperatures for a long period of time. Hands-on activity. Find some wool yarn or fabric and compare it to a different kind of yarn or fabric. If you know how to crochet or knit, make something out of a wool yarn and yarn that is not wool and compare the two items. And this concludes Lesson 9 for today.